Hey y'all, here at OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Awow VT11. This is a 11.6-inch Windows 10 laptop that's also a 2-in-1 convertible. So it has a touchscreen, and it also is a rugged laptop as well in the sense that it's splash-proof, the keyboard is water-resistant, so even if you splash some coffee or spill a drink on top of it, it can drain away. It even comes with an active stylus, so it's pressure-sensitive for drawing, writing notes, annotating, and can also fit into the laptop when not in use. You can think of this as an alternative to something like a Chromebook. It's still relatively entry level. Other specs are concerned, it comes with 8 gigs of built-in DDR4 RAM, which is actually quite good for this price range. Should allow us to do some multitasking without feeling as restricted. Typically laptops in this segment have only around 4, so this is double the amount of built-in RAM. The storage here is 256 gigabytes, which is also sufficient to install most programs that you would need, and it has a built-in accelerometer as well that you can use to rotate the screen automatically. Finally, the laptop comes in a few different colors, including a blue version you see here, also comes in a more traditional black, as well as a pink edition. For packaging contents, aside from the VT11 laptop itself, we have of course a quick start guide, as well as the charger, which by default is pretty compact, but it does have a kind of proprietary round plug which is included. However, the VT11 does also have a USB Type-C port which can be used to charge it up. So you can use standard USB Type-C, or the alternative is this round plug that they give you. Now, out of all the specs, maybe the only part which is really showing the fact that it's in the budget segment would be the processor. It is using the Intel Celeron N3 450, a quad-core chip that has been used for a while now on less expensive laptops. But it's still decent enough in terms of getting you by for tasks like web browsing and watching videos up to 4K resolution. It's just not going to be really a powerhouse. Now, in terms of all the ports, they're covered up by rubber to prevent water from seeping in. That's part of the water resistance for added durability. And underneath this flap is where you'll find the, again, charging port. You can use Type-C as well. There is a LED indication light when you are charging. There's also a full-sized HDMI port, great to see, and a USB 3.0 port. And on the other side, we have another flap, which covers up the Ethernet port if you don't want to use Wi-Fi. There's also a 3.5mm auxiliary port, a second USB 3.0 port, and also a micro SD card reader. Back of the laptop is the same accent color as the top, of course. We have the stereo speakers, which are pointing downwards, but overall it is what it is. We also have soft touch rubber feet that prevents it from sliding around on a surface or a desk, and we also have, more importantly, some ventilation ports, which is where water can pass through from if you spill a drink over the keyboard. So this is for the added, again, water resistance. It won't really break easily. That is going to be what they're going after with this particular model, compared to something super sleek, which is thinner or made out of a more fragile metal or glass. The hinge here is relatively stiff, so you do have to use 2 hands to open up the laptop, but overall it holds the position quite well. It doesn't really wobble, even if you are typing on your lap, for example. And inside here we do have the keyboard itself, as well as the trackpad, both of which are a decent size, I'd say, for a ultra portable. In general, it's a comfortable enough layout, and I could still achieve a pretty nice typing speed after using the keyboard for just a few minutes, so decent there. The trackpad does support multi-touch gestures, has a slightly coarse plastic material, and clicks in pretty nicely as well. And the keyboard itself, although it isn't backlit, that is acceptable, I think, for the price, we do have the slot here for the stylus on the very top. So this is magnetic, so that even if you kind of tilt the laptop sideways, you can see it still stays in place, and you can easily then pop it out just by applying a bit of force. The pen itself is constructed entirely out of metal, so it does feel very good in terms of the quality, quite compact, and there's 2 keys as well, which can correspond to a eraser function as well as a highlight function. And on the back here there is a tip that you can twist to access the battery. So this is a active stylus which takes one Quad A battery that is also included in the box, but you can replace this battery after about 1 year of usage when it runs out. Otherwise, as far as the laptop's display here on the top, we can see that, again, because it is more of a rugged machine, it does have slightly larger bezels. Boot up times are relatively quick. It starts into Windows in around 15 seconds or so, so not too slow at all. And again, the N3450 is a super energy efficient chip, which is also passively cooled, so there is no running fan since it really doesn't build up that much heat. The last function here, which is unique, would be the webcam, which as aforementioned is rotatable. So if we can take a quick look here, you can see right now it's actually pointing away from us for the sake of privacy, but when you want to access it, you can just twist on it and it can be kind of brought back to face yourself, along with built-in stereo microphones for some noise cancellation. If you're in a slightly louder space, it can just isolate and pick up your voice. So overall, this design is pretty clever. The fact that you can kind of hide the camera when not in use or use it to capture something in the background if you're scanning in a document. Also, you can still use it in other orientations, such as further flipping the screen backwards, such as something like this, which can be popped up like a tent, and you can use it just to watch videos with. Rotate the screen past 180 degrees, there is a pop-up that says, do you want to enter the tablet mode? And if you say yes, what it does is it will also pop up with the virtual keyboards as well. So if you type on the search bar here, you can see a virtual keyboard will now pop along, and it will also disable the physical keyboard on the back. So if I accidentally press something on the keyboard here, you can see that nothing is being triggered on the screen. The trackpad is also locked, so I can't actually accidentally move it with my hand when not really trying to access something. And now it's only going to activate the touchscreen. So the software optimization is done pretty well. The only key which has not been locked is the power button. So if we want to fully kind of close it up and use it like a tablet here, and taking a look here on the back, this is where the power key is. I can tap on this once and you can see how the screen here will basically go dark, so you can still turn it on and off. And once again, we have that accelerometer, so you can hold it into something like this for reading or using as a journal. You can see how it will just automatically rotate. Obviously though, if you're holding the thing in your hands like an iPad, it would still add quite a bit of weight because of the keyboard. So the entire thing is still around 4 pounds. So it's not going to be perhaps the easiest to always use in the tablet mode. But again, just like Lenovo's Yoga products, you do have this versatility. And the benefit of having a keyboard that's always attached is the keyboard is very good quality and it's a firm base. So you put it on your lap when you're working on a car or somewhere when on the road, and you can still type, compared to a Surface's Folio keyboard, which is softer and kind of just flops all over the place. So I do really like the form factor of this type of 360-degree hinge, and as ever, I think it gives you lots of modes that you can position it in. As far as the display itself, it's a decent quality IPS screen, which means that viewing angles are pretty good. You can tilt it, colors don't really wash out. There is going to be a bit more glare since the surface isn't matte, and it's also not a fully laminated display, so there's still a small gap between the glass on the top and the screen underneath. So it can glare a little bit if you're in direct sunlight, but overall still is usable enough. It does have a full HD 1080p resolution, which is also great. It still has pretty good sharpness and resolution overall. As far as the battery life is concerned, again, it's a very energy efficient chipset. So on a full charge, it will last you for around 6.5 hours of casual usage, including web browsing and watching videos before it completely drains, which I think is quite good for a Windows-powered laptop. Some Chromebooks might slightly edge it out, but overall it still is an endurance champion. Even though it has an energy efficient chipset, you can still also tweak the power mode for the performance level that you want to set it at. The Wi-Fi reception quality of the computer is also pretty strong, again supporting 2.4G and 5G dual band Wi-Fi, and I didn't have any issues when it comes to getting a pretty good lock onto my router. Back in the tablet mode, we can take a closer look at the stylus performance, which is pretty much recognized by every single drawing app that you can install for Windows, and whenever you put the kind of cursor close enough to the screen, you can see a mouse point here begin to hover, and overall works pretty well. It's very responsive, and through the software you can also turn on palm rejection, so that even if you are, say, putting your finger on top of the touchscreen and then using the pen, you can see it's not going to make any markings from where your hand was resting. This is just the default sticky notes, which is built into every Windows computer, but it supports the pressure sensitivity of the pen as well, so I can press hard and you can see it creates a firmer line versus The softer line, the experience is very similar to using a real pencil and pen, and it is quite sensitive as well, which makes the overall drawing experience pretty responsive. Now here are some other programs that I tried out previously. Windows Whiteboard, that also comes by default. You can also play around with, again, supporting pressure sensitivity, so I can create lighter and darker shades as I move the pen. The second key here will trigger just the eraser, so I can then erase any markings I've made, versus the first key will trigger a kind of a ability for me to select a wide region here and either cut it or remove it. Good if you're an artist as well, trying to look for a graphic tablet to create quick doodles or artwork when on the road. Other things to observe: out of the 256 gigs of the eMMC storage, there is 204 gigs which are remaining basically for you to install with your programs and apps, which is sufficient. Now in terms of the system properties, we can again confirm that it is using the aforementioned Celeron N3450, 1.1 gigahertz with a turbo speed up to 2.2 gigahertz. And again, we have 8 gigs of RAM, 7.85 of which is usable. We can take a quick look at the camera. Overall quality is decent, I'd say. It's typical for most laptops. It has a 2 megapixel resolution, capable of up to HD resolution video, and it's again going to do an okay job when it comes to video conferencing, scanning in quick documents. And again, the touchscreen here does support pinch to zoom gestures. An LED light here will be on to tell you that the camera is being used. In terms of the benchmark scores here, on the pass mark, we can see that the N3450 scores 1932. Again, this is a very common chipset that we've seen for quite a few different devices now, including budget laptops and computers, so it is one of the most popular choices. But overall, for what it is, the performance is still decent. Similar again to other Chromebooks in the same price range, it will be able to handle again web browsing without too much issues. For context, the generation of the chip also is important in the sense that if you're comparing it with some of the really older Intel Core i5 chips, even though they were once a flagship, the Celeron is definitely still much improved. As far as the 8 gigabytes of RAM is concerned, again, it's more than you'll find on some of the other budget laptops that we've seen, so you can keep a handful of tabs open in the browser without really losing anything or reloading any of the tabs. So we have something like The Verge open here, which is a relatively complex site, and you can see here how the loading speed is actually pretty fast and responsive. Scrolling with the trackpad feels smooth. Using the touchscreen as well also feels quite fluid, and despite the complicated ads and videos, everything is still loading along pretty nicely. It may be taking a split second longer compared to, again, a current generation Core i series or AMD Ryzen chipset, but again, for what it is, for a energy efficient processor, already doing a pretty respectable job, I think, definitely more than usable. And we can jump into another tab here, open up, say, Amazon, and once again, a desktop version of the site with lots of elements are still fully visible. Everything is still held into the RAM, really without too much problems, as we can see here. So in my experience, I was able to use it and have around 15 tabs open in the browser. It's also a good opportunity to take a quick listen at the speaker quality coming out here from the base of the laptop. Right, so turning down the volume there, overall takeaway would be speaker quality is decent, I would say average for a smaller laptop like this, and you can always improve the sound experience by connecting it to wireless Bluetooth speakers or using headphones. Of course, there's a standard 3.5mm jack on the side of the machine, which is great. Again, in terms of watching back this 4K clip, surprisingly it's still playing back really nicely in terms of not really having too much issues such as bufferings or delays. Once the video plays, it's relatively smooth, as you can see here, in terms of the frame rates, and not really having any problems in terms of pausing it and then resuming it, even skipping ahead, and everything is still loading on without any problems. So again, the N3450 chipset here will still more than handle 4K resolution videos that you may want to watch on YouTube or Netflix. Goes without saying that other applications which are lighter, include Office and document editing, are going to work great on this, and might be even an advantage of this machine compared to a Chromebook is the fact that you do have significantly more offline storage. Again, 200 gigabytes are free for you to save files onto, and of course you can still use cloud services, even for a very complex document, as you can see here, with lots of tabs going on, but everything is still, for the most part, performing quite well. So again, good enough for getting these document editing tasks done. Now, in terms of the Microsoft Store here, also gives you a catalog of some games which are optimized to run on the device. If you want to try some lighter games, they can also be compatible, such as Roblox or Minecraft will definitely play and be compatible here. Of course, if you're talking about AAA titles, more demanding games, like, say, Cyberpunk, that's not going to give you the best experience here because of the very limited hardware. It's by no means a gaming-centric computer. So keep those expectations in mind, but once again, you can leverage cloud services these days, whether that's Google's Stadia or the Xbox xCloud services that can get you to connect to a faster computing power somewhere, as long as you're connected to the internet and have a subscription. So those are other options if you want to play back those games, basically using this as just a portal, using the screen and using the keyboard, but the brains through a more powerful machine over the internet. So that is another possibility. So thanks for watching here, OS Reviews. That's more or less it as far as our quick hands-on review of this Awow VT11 2-in-1 360-degree convertible laptop. It still is a budget model at the end of the day, but again, you're getting some special features here, including added durability for the construction. It's going to be water resistant, has a touchscreen in addition to a active pressure-sensitive stylus, which is a pretty special trick, a rotatable webcam for added privacy and flexibility, and generally pretty good performance to get you by for basic tasks. So you can check out more details if you're interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Awow VT11 11.6-inch 360-degree laptop.